This episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast is brought to you by Sari Clementine Clothing, located at 366 South 500 East, number 104, in beautiful downtown Salt Lake City.
I've been sitting here for quite a few minutes trying to think of the perfect introduction to welcome you to episode 40 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. Something a little bit different than the previous 39 episodes. Something to make this episode stand out a little bit more. The only thing that kept coming to my mind was how grateful and how thankful I am to you, the listeners, for you guys that have given me the feedback, the voicemails, the emails, the donations. You guys are what have helped keep this podcast going. I mean, at one time it was just a little dream in my head. It was just an idea, something to help showcase individuals, businesses, professionals, musicians, people that are making the city a little great, big, different, great, awesome. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have made it this far. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you, the listeners, especially those of you that have kind of been with me since the beginning. Those of you that have inspired me and prompted me and kept me going. Thank you. Thank you for your support. My name is Chris Hollifield, and I want to welcome you to my show. I want to welcome you to the I Am Salt Lake podcast. I am your host, your guide from episode to episode. If this is your first time, thank you. Go on over to I Am Salt Lake. Check out all the previous episodes. Download them. Put them onto your smartphone. Listen to them on your way to work. Find out something about your neighbor, your friend's band, somebody that I've talked to, somebody that makes Salt Lake City what it is today. So thank you. Go on over, drop me an email, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. Tell me what you think of the show, especially if this is your first time listening in. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. I'm always looking to bring new people onto the show. Before I introduce you to today's guest, I want to tell you about a couple things. First of all, go out, pick up February's issue of Slug magazine. They were awesome enough to sit down with me and do a write-up about the podcast and about kind of how it started. So a big thanks goes out to Slug Magazine and Rebecca Frost for writing about the I Am Salt Lake podcast. If you want, you can also check it out on their website, slugmag.com. I made it really easy for you to just go to iamsaltlake.com/slugmag. That'll take you right to the article so you don't have to search the website. Also, I want to tell you about our friends over at City Weekly. They're doing their Best of Utah Awards. If you go to cityweekly.net/Best of Utah, they have a category for favorite podcast. Takes you just a minute, and I can think of a better podcast to put in there than the I Am Salt Lake podcast. So go on over to cityweekly.net/Best of Utah. Anyways, this episode, I had an opportunity to sit down with Matthew Nanes. He has played in bands that I'm sure you've heard of, such as Gaza and Day 2 and many other local area bands. Right now he's doing a solo project, which I'm quite fond of, and I play a couple of tracks of that throughout our interview. And anyways, I find out kind of what has inspired him musically, his influences, how he's grown as a musician, and just some of the fun he's had along the way. It was really fun time to sit down and talk with him and catch up and just laugh and have a really good time. So anyways, he's on today's episode 40 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. Let me know what you think of the episode, and go on to iTunes, leave us a review, tell me what you think of the show. Call me up on the voicemail, 385-202-5926. Anyways, I'm going to jump right into that conversation now with Matthew Nanes. You guys have a great day. Yeah, so when did you start? Like, how young were you when you first started playing music? What was your first instrument?
My first instrument. Okay, first of all, I was in 7th grade, so I was like 12, 13 years old, and I really wanted to play the drums, but at the time I was living up on Hill Air Force Base because my mom was in the Air Force at the time, and the housing up there is just mostly duplexes, so obviously that wouldn't work with our neighbors. So I had a little snare pad to try to, drum out rhythms and stuff like that, but it wasn't going to happen. It was too loud. So an electric guitar served best. So, but yeah, started playing that around 12, and then in junior high, I had a couple buddies. They were brothers. One of them played drums, and he did have his drums in the duplex house on bass. So I was like, well, if he can have it, why can't I? But him and his brother jammed out. I was like, well, we want to do a band, but we need a bass player. So I kind of got relegated to bass playing duties for that.
So none of you had any musical lessons or anything. You just picked up these instruments.
I think we all, if I remember correctly, we actually did get lessons and stuff like that. But like we wanted to play with people too, especially I grew up listening to music and wanting to play music, and so ended up being with some of my best friends. So I was like, yeah, I'll go get a bass. So I kind of begged my dad to buy me a cheap bass. But our first show was like a junior high assembly, like 1,000 kids.
What kind of music was it? Just like punk rock or just?
Well, like I was more into punk than any of those guys, but like the common thread was like grunge because this was like in, oh my gosh, like 96, 97, like, so it was like Silverchair.
So you were in the flannel shirts and I
bleached my bowl cut. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun too.
So your parents were pretty supportive then of you playing music? Yeah.
I mean, my mom was like, yeah, sure. Like, if anything that I wanted to do, for the most part, they were pretty supportive of. My mom, for the most part. My dad, not so much, because he was older and he didn't really understand so much, like, not so much punk rock, but of course not punk rock, but just like, why would you want to play loud music type of thing? But he let it happen anyway, because it was good for me. It kept me busy,
Who were some of your earliest musical influences? Like some of the bands that you really were just like, this is awesome, I want to sound just like them.
The first time I saw the Smashing Pumpkins Today video, that was a pretty eye-opening moment for me. I didn't really listen to any like rock and roll other than like the Beatles or Queen up to that point. I don't know what I heard first, like Nirvana or Smashing Pumpkins. It kind of started there, like the alternative stuff, like Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins. I loved the Blue album by Weezer.
Oh, that was great. I love that album.
Yeah, I still play all those bands. I haven't forgotten about those, but then, like, of course, Green Day Dookie came out, and that was like my introduction to punk rock. As punk rock as they are now, but it just kind of started from there.
And then from there, your junior high, when you were playing that, when did you go on to, like, what was your next band? Where did you go from there?
So from there, we kind of stopped playing for whatever reasons. They moved away because they were military, and their parents retired and moved back to Missouri because that's where they're from. But high school was pretty cool because I got to meet some other kids I didn't know. And so I met Casey Hansen, and he plays in Gaza. And we had a buddy named I'm blowing it right now, but his name's Dave Hill. His name is Dave Hill.
Okay.
He was a really, really good friend, and at this time, we were listening to At the Drive-In, and we were getting really into Fugazi and Pretty Girls Make Graves and stuff like that, like all like kind of like the posts hardcore.
Your musical interests sound very similar to mine.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember you wearing a Pretty Girls Make Graves shirt at one point.
Yeah,
but we just kind of wanted to play like really chaotic music, and so at that point, like we were pretty bad though. We were really sloppy, but
so this is with some of the guys from Gaza then.
Casey, yeah.
Casey, okay.
Yeah, Casey, yeah. Like some other cast of characters come in later, but yeah. So we just kind of learned how to be musicians, and especially for myself and Casey, where we loved music and we wanted to do well at it. Of course, when you're a kid and you watch concerts and you see, 10,000 people going crazy. I remember like my first show was seeing Silverchair, and there was like 4,000 people at Saltaire, and people going nuts. And when you're 11 years old, where I was when I saw that show.
So wait, you were 10 or 11 when you saw Silverchair?
Yeah, my mom took me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that kind of blew my mind. So at that point, it's like, well, this is what I want to do. I want to try doing this. And so me and Casey were just interested in getting better and just kicking butt, I guess.
Yeah.
And
how did you and Casey meet then?
High school.
High school. Okay,
yeah.
You guys were at the same school.
Hung out the same hallway, and I really don't know how it happened. We just hung out.
You just
somehow.
clicked.
Yeah, I guess so. We were weird. We were really weird kids, but we enjoyed it. But we kind of seemed like we outgrew that a little bit as far as the sound and what we really wanted to do. And so
from there you went. Now then you went to play in Day 2, or you played in Gaza then?
Yeah, there's this really weird time, like really, really short amount of times. What happened was we also had a friend in high school named Mike Mason, who plays in Gaza as well. And so what happened, we tried putting him in My White Room.
Uh-huh.
And so, but if you listen to Gaza at all, it's clear that he's like a technical savant. He's insane. He's an insane guitarist, and so
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so above our level, and it was like clear, like, wow, this is probably not going to work. And so what came from that, like, we dissolved My White Room, and we started another band called Thieves of Verona. We got another guy that I knew. He played in a few Kaysville, Davis County bands named Nate Mon. And he was into like the Pixies and stuff like that, but it worked. And we only played 4 or 5 shows. Like and it was crazy. Like we played 4 or 5 shows. We opened for the most insane bands at the time, for us at least.
Like who? Give me.
Like we opened for Pretty Girls Make Graves, and so at Kilby once. And
were you just blown away by that?
Kind of. Well, it was just as easy as shooting off an email, know, to the promoter. It's like, hey, we're this band from Clearfield. Yeah, we were in Clearfield we weren't a Salt Lake band, and so it was a long shot, but I guess I had some pretty big cojones at that point, like, well, there's a shot we could open, why not? And so we emailed the promoter, great, yeah, we'll have you on. And so high fives ensued, like Minus the Bear. We opened for Minus the Bear at Kilby as well. And so that was kind of...
And that was even back in the day when Kilby Court shows were
cool.
Epic.
Yeah, they were epic.
Yeah.
Well, they're still cool. I love Kilby, but no, epic's a great word. So many great shows happened there. Yeah. And so, the Day 2 thing happened because at that point I would go to shows and I was pretty open-minded. They were kind of like a screamo band at that point, very influenced like Thursday or something like that. But I still went to shows. I went to high school with one of the guitar players. So I'd hung around. I'd go to parties and such like that. And I got to know those dudes going to shows and hanging out. And their bass player, Tony D'Amico, who I'm really still good friends with, he left the band. And I'd been to so many of their shows, I just knew the songs just by listening to them. And so I showed up to try out. And it wasn't...
For Day 2. For Day 2.
Yeah, and this is while I was still in Thieves of Verona. So there was kind of a weird conflict. Because one band it was getting cred, quote unquote cred, which was probably true, but the other band wasn't, cool to the more indie kind of. But I was in both worlds, I enjoyed both stuff, both styles, and things were happening for Day 2. They're, bringing 400, 500 kids a show. They were having labels look at them. And in my mind, I'm 17 years old.
Approximately how many years ago was this? Just so people listening...
10 years ago. I'm 27.
About 10... No, you're fine, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 27 right now, so it was 10 years ago. And so in my mind, like, wow, this could be my ticket out of, Davis County,
Everybody's dream in Davis County to get out.
Pretty much. But yeah, I tried out and I got in and I tried doing both bands for a while, but it was clear that there was, back then some feelings got hurt but it was kind of my dream, I felt
Absolutely.
Like if I didn't do it, I would probably kick myself.
Yeah.
So.
And so you made it into Day 2?
Yeah, I made it into the band, and it was a really weird first show. I got in the band, and then like 5 days later, we opened for the singer of Save Ferris, of that ska band, Save Ferris. It was like the basement of Deviate. Wow. And we brought 3/4 of the crowd, which was like, we packed out the basement to deviate.
Now, was this is at the beginning of day 2 then?
Well,
This
they'd already been going.
They've already been a band.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'd already been going, and so they were already established locally. So I kind of hopped on to like a freight train a little bit.
And you were playing guitar? Or
I was playing bass.
Bass,
yeah,
okay.
I was playing bass and singing a little bit in the band too. But yeah, I was just kind of trial by fire. Sometimes I do my best stuff when I have a deadline or just here, do it. Okay.
And did you get a tour at all with day 2 then, or how did that work out?
What happened was I joined the band April of my senior year, and so I was really busy in high school. Like I was doing, student government. I was really involved, but at the same time, like I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in a band, and so I would go play shows and get home at 12:30 and then have to go to, wake up at 5 o'clock to get ready for a function at school.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, but they were going to sign with a small label that had, really
what label was it?
They were called Outline Records.
I was just curious because it's funny to listen to old label names, Doghouse and some of those names.
It wasn't a national label. Like he was from California, but he had ties here in Utah. But he also had a lot of industry ties too. Okay. So it did benefit us. It was a small label, and they ended up signing a couple other Salt Lake bands too, like Clifton and Cherem.
Okay.
So they did that, but in my mind, it's like, well, anything to get me out on tour, was very focused on, what I wanted, But yeah, I ended up going out on tour pretty much right after graduation for about 3.5 weeks.
And was it a full U.S. tour?
Yeah, it was Salt Lake up through the Pacific Northwest and then to Alabama to play this really big festival called Furnace Fest.
Okay.
But we didn't get to the the East Coast proper, but it was far away enough from home for me.
What did you think of it? Your first time on tour with a band, you're in a van, you're with a bunch of guys, and you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck did I get myself into?
It was a lot of fun. That first tour was a lot of fun. I was the baby of the band because, at that time, people were, 23, 25, 26 years old.
And you're like 18.
I'm 18. And so they wouldn't let me drive the van, which I ended up, sleeping in the back of the van for the most part because they didn't trust me.
They're like, we can't go to sleep in the van if Matt's driving.
Yeah, pretty much. Or just, he hasn't driven a van at all. Don't let him do it. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun. Recently I saw a video of, just when people bring their camcorders out of that tour, and it was just a lot of fun, a lot of good shows, a lot of good friends, meeting a lot of cool people that I still know till this day. So that tour was awesome in a lot of ways. It got us out there. We're doing really well.
So did you just get to do one tour with day 2, or did you do quite multiples?
I did multiple tours with them.
I'm just curious,
Yeah. Like I'm foggy, but
no, you're all right. Yeah. What was your most memorable? Like one of your most memorable shows or bands that you got to open up for on any of the day 2 tours?
Oh man,
or probably too many to.
We ended up opening up for quite a bit of. For the most part, it was locally. We'd open up for the bigger bands, but what we did Warped Tour for 3 weeks in 2004.
Oh wow!
And so we originally were booked for 3 shows, but we ended up offering our services to help build one of the stages in return, so we could play a chance to play on it. But we played about 80% of the shows from there on out.
So did you ever get signed to a bigger label, or or were there just people looking at you, I guess?
People were looking, and as I recall, as far as I was told, there was a contract on the table for us. But
what happened?
we thought we were cooler than we really were. Well, we want more, but just when you're just a small band from Salt Lake, it's either you take it or leave it, or try to do it yourself, which is, barring some setbacks, we might have, it could have done it, but I remember wanting to do it, like I'm saying, just naive, 18, 19-year-old kid, like, well, why wouldn't we?
Spending all your money on instruments and all that, and right, you're like, wait a minute, I'm not making any money here.
Yeah, and like relationships are failing, and family life is failing. It's like, well, better make it worth it. But it didn't work. It didn't work out. I ended up leaving not the fall after that Warped Tour. That Warped Tour was great though. We met so many cool people, played a lot of great shows. This is when the band Under Oath, they were just getting big at that point. They were headlining the stage we were on, and they're bringing 2,000 kids, and sometimes we play right before them.
Oh, so you played multiple shows with them?
Oh yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah. We were the same stage. Like we were making relationships with those dudes, and just pretty much every other band on that tour that we could. But it was a great time. You know, we were starving. We were in a van, which if you talk to anyone who's done Warped Tour, if you do Warped Tour in a van, you're going to be very malnourished and
eat a lot of uncooked ramen
or like for me it was the bomb burrito, the bomb, you know, in the gas station.
Oh, okay,
you know,
okay.
That or like tuna fish or something, but my bandmates hated the tuna fish smell in the van.
I could imagine. It's kind of a rank smell in a house.
Oh yeah, bad news.
So then from there, I'm just kind of getting a little bit of the timeline of where you went musically. So you played in Day 2 for about a couple years.
Yeah, it was like a year and a half, 2 years.
And then from there, you just decided, okay, did you? Now, they're not around anymore, right? Or no?
Day 2? No.
No, okay.
We did do a reunion show this past summer.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to keep up with all the Salt Lake City music. It really is.
There's a lot going on.
So then from there, did you play any bands or did you jump right into Gaza then? Or
It was a really weird time in my life because, like, it was a really cool but really weird because the people that know me now, they know that, you know, I'm a pretty I'm a Christian, you know. That's that's what I believe. But that stuff really happened on that Warped Tour as far as all that kind of developing. And it's funny, anyone who knows Gaza is like, well, how the heck did that happen? But it was really the relationships that I made with Casey and Michael during high school, and I played with John Park, and he used to play with a band called Day of Less, and you know, my old high school bands would open for them, and I'd see him around shows. We ended up, you know, making friends with them during that time. So to me, it was like, yeah, sweet, I'll just jam. We're gonna do this locally. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna play really disgustingly heavy music. Like, why not?
Yeah.
And so I was still kind of like searching for that hole, you know, like, well, I'm done with Day 2, and that was a really like crazy experience, you know, but I wanted to do something a little bit more fun, and it really was. It was a really fun band to play in. That was a really good time as well.
And so obviously Gaza's still around and whatnot. You just decided to kind of go from there. It just wasn't your thing, or I mean, what made you decide to kind of part ways from there, if you don't mind me asking? I guess, or
like what happened was, like, of course, like, you know, it started off as like really, really good and fun, you know, and there came to be like a conflict of beliefs, you know, as far as having like convictions and stuff like that. And so I guess there was a show in Ogden or something like that. It was a really crazy show in Ogden, like kids were flying all over the stage, great show, and I invited, you know, some of my church buddies to come out and watch us play. It's like, yeah, do you know what your singer did? I'm like, what? He drew an upside down cross on his chest. And I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be like that. And it's not the fact that I'm like intolerant or whatever, but at that time, like, you know, at least to me, like, if I tend to respect, like, I respect John and the other guys in Gaza for this because they have convictions of some sort, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, to me, it's if you're kind of wallowing, you know, and not really sure what you're doing, or not really like strongly believe, whether it be a cause or whatever else, like, it's like, well, what are you for, you know? And so I still, like, I respect and love those guys, you know, because they do have that, you know, fiery conviction, you know, of, you know, atheism and all that. But at that point, I was still trying to figure out who I was too, you know, as a person. And that
there's probably that struggle when you're doing that, and you know, you have to surround yourself with like-minded people, I guess.
Right. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with having people who are different-minded. Like, you know, I still talk to those guys, you know, and I still play shows, you know, I still play punk rock shows, you know. Of course, like, I surround myself with like-minded people, but at the same time, as far as like, if you're going to do something that's going to take so much of your time, like being in a band or even like being married, for crying out loud, you got to have some stuff in common, you know?
Yeah.
And so being friends with those guys and being close friends, like, they understood, it's like, hey, this is obviously, you know, there's some difference here, you know, we still love each other. sweet. I'll be their biggest fan. They'll be my biggest fan. Like, and still friends with those guys, you know. But it was just like, things were getting too serious in some aspects, you know, as far as that goes. And we had a couple of really, really cool opportunities, but I was still kind of burnt from my previous experience, you know, as far as like labels and being sure is this a good idea type of thing, you know. But
and I could see that, especially, you know, I could definitely see how that would be conflicting.
Yeah.
You know, but then that led you up to do some solo stuff.
Yeah.
Where you're doing now. So how long have you just been doing some solo stuff then?
Well, I kind of dipped my toe in it back in high school when I put together a show at my high school, and we needed a band, but there wasn't too many bands in Clearfield, and I didn't have any, you know, quote unquote connections or anything. So like, well, I'll just throw myself up on stage and play a cover and some other dinky songs that I had, you know. And so, you know, after the Gaza thing, you know, I was still kind of figuring some things out. But, you know, if you're a creative person, you're still moving. You're still writing songs. You're still writing words and put them together and you have songs. So I actually had Casey Hansen from Gaza and some other friends play with me. And I was calling that Swans of Never for a while. And I put out a record called Swans of Never. It was like it was pretty much all me, you know, like the one-man band type of thing. I try to have dudes play at shows, but that was like 2006 or 7 is when I started doing the solo stuff.
So actually, let's play one of your solo songs now on the podcast here. Is there a specific song that you would like to play?
Yeah, this is a song called "The Lashes." It's on my self-titled EP. Matthew Quen Nanes EP, about growing up in Davis County and dealing with all that. But I really like the song. And
excellent. So we'll play that, and then we'll be back to talk with Matthew a little bit more, find out more about him. So.
Grasping for air in a town that we've been for quite some time, a place that we've been all of our lives. Since I've been here, nothing's changed. Damage has been done when this small town sailed us in with no air to breathe. The damage has been done when this small town, the current sailed us in with no air to breathe. With American stars and stripes ripped across our backs, and the image of God burned in our minds. We've taken the lashes the best we could. Now we realize we're misunderstood. Damage has been done when this small town, the current sailed us in with no air to breathe. The damage has been done when this small town, the current sailed us in with no air to breathe. This damage done to us is why we're alone. More from this place so we call home. Damage done to us isn't why we're alone. For has been done. We're in this small town. The current sealed us in. There's no air to breathe. The damage has been done. We're in this small town. The current sealed us in. There's no air to breathe. Air to breathe.
So what would you say the biggest difference playing as a solo musician versus in a full band?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot less noise to hide behind. So if I make a mistake, it's pretty clear.
The attention is on you.
You're right. But in this, the other side of the coin, I have no one else to rely on. That it's all on me to do something that's quality. And so as far as like depending on other people, like say you won't have Joe Schmo over here, like, yeah, we're playing together, but he screws up the song. It's like, well, if I have a bad show, it's on me. If I have a great show, awesome. That's, it's on me, So it's kind of like the whole, master of your own destiny type of idea.
Yeah.
Trust me, I would love to have a band, but there's aspects of playing solo that you can't beat, you don't have to argue with anyone in practice over, how a song goes. Like, no, this is my song and this is how it's going to go and this is how I want it, And so, that being said, like I said, like it does get lonely, I do want, yeah, like that'd be cool to have volume, but the trade-off is definitely worth it.
What do you think the most rewarding thing of playing music in general for you has been?
For me, like, I have a lot of crazy thoughts in my head, crazy ideas. So sometimes having an idea sit in my head or like just how I'm feeling or what I think about something or, I can't get it out. It kind of tends to fester, So just having like an outlet, just being loud, or just even when I play solo, I'm still loud, as far as like, yeah, there's not a lot of noise, but I still like being abrasive. I still like being loud, I like to tone it down too, but pretty much just having that outlet just to get stuff out,
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah.
What do you think the most challenging thing probably for playing? Even solo, well, just in general, in music in general, what do you think the most challenging thing
like
has been?
creating stuff, you want to share that with people. And so I used to get really disheartened, like while I was on tour or whatever else, when no one would come to the show, So you're playing, of course, for you and your band and maybe the other band you're on tour with. I used to be offended if no one tell everybody come out to my show, and then it's like, oh, I had these songs for you, but you don't want to show up. And so that I struggle with that like a lot at first, but now I'm more willing like just to say like, hey, whoever's here, they're here, and so
have you been playing quite a bit out solo?
Yeah, like I have, like I've opened for some great bands doing solo, and I think I've had more success going solo rather than trying to do that Swans of Never thing, because it's just been really intentional. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be playing by myself. I'm going to be recording by myself, not having a full band. So it's been really easy to do.
If you could tour with any band now, let's say you had an opportunity to, as your solo project, who would be your dream band to take a tour with now?
Living or right now?
Past, present, dead, alive.
Yeah. The first band that comes to my mind is The Clash.
Oh, wouldn't that be an epic?
Yeah, it would be. Who knows how the crowd would go, but I wouldn't care,
Yeah.
I'd be playing with The Clash. I'd like to play with bands that are out now, like Gaslight Anthem. I really like that band. The Weaker Thans.
What happened to those guys? Are
There's
they still
Weaker
around?
Thans?
Yeah, are they still around?
Yeah, sporadically.
It's hard to
yeah.
keep up with music nowadays.
Yeah.
It really is.
I love that. If there's one singer songwriter right now that I'm kind of inspired by a lot, it's a Weaker Than singer John K. Sampson. His last solo record that he did was awesome.
Yeah.
So if you like the Weaker Thans, it's a really good record.
Do you think the internet has made music almost too available, though? Like, when I say what happened to that band, it kind of goes back to, I feel like back in the day, you had to get the zines or the newest Maximum Rock and Roll or something. Now it's just like, okay, we have Facebook and we have all this, and it's just like music is just constantly in front of us.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's maybe too much music? Well, maybe that's not fair to say, but too much available.
Yeah, I could say, I mean, I'm definitely contributing to that myself.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword because Day 2 in Gaza, we wouldn't have done what we've done or what Gaza's continued to do, I should say, without MySpace or without Facebook.
That's true. I mean, bands are able to tour more and get their name out there more because of those.
And it's cool that anyone can play music and record something on their laptop and throw it out there for their friends to hear, and that's really cool. But I don't think that's so much a problem. It's that a lot of people are trying to make something big out of what they're doing, and that's not so much a problem. But it's like, we're gonna play all these shows, and we're gonna put sometimes really bad quality recordings up, and I'm guilty of that as well. In the past, I've kind of had to learn. It's like, well, if I'm going to put something up, I want to put something that's worth something, and I think that's what it comes down to, is that the worth of music has kind of gone down. There's too much of it that, hey, buy our record. There's a lot of people kind of selling themselves, and you have to do that as a musician too. So it's kind of like, well, what do you do? It's like you post a lot of stuff on Facebook about your new record. Yeah. You got to do that though, and so there's a lot of like oversaturation of that. But it's kind of like it's hard not to do that and try to do something with your craft and your art. Like I said, like I like sharing what I do.
Yeah.
But it's not special anymore for sure. It's just as easy as.
And I don't even mean that in a bad way.
No,
I don't mean that in a bad way, because I do like how available. I mean, even with something as simple as Spotify, for example.
Right.
It's nice to be able to get in your car and you could listen to almost anything you want,
Right.
or Pandora or anything like that. There's something nice about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is so available.
Right, and I used to pride myself on buying physical for so long. It's like, I'll always buy physical copies of the albums I like. And then in comes Spotify. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just buy what I like. Yeah, I haven't bought a physical record in, I don't know, like, I've been meaning to buy Arcade Fire's Funeral for 3 months.
Yeah.
But like...
But there used to even be something about it, you pull the CD insert out, you read the lyrics, you look at the pictures, you want to memorize every lyric so you could sing along when they come to town.
Oh, that was me. For sure. That was so me. I don't know if it's a product of getting older, or I think it is a product of getting older and just having a lot of stuff on my plate, and a lot of it's technology too.
Yeah.
I would love to sit down with a record and take it in. I haven't done that in a long time.
I remember making mix CDs or mix tapes, and
I still try to do that into some
the mix CD.
Yeah.
For that girlfriend, maybe she'll understand this song.
Right. If the girl...
This Get Up Kids song, right?
Oh, man, Valentine. That was like, if you put Get Up Kids Valentine on a mix CD and it was like accepted, it's like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
With my wife, I still make her mix CDs, That started off with a mix CD, though. It's like, hey, read this book and read this and read this book. I want you to check out these songs I made you on this CD. It's like, okay, that was cool. Like, wow, she thought it was cool.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I still try to do. And I just kind of like putting playlists together myself. But yeah, there's just something about just sitting down with a record and really digging into it. I think it's a
lost art. It's a lost art.
Exactly. Yeah, it's getting lost for sure.
Where do you think you would be without music? I mean, say music would have never been introduced to your life, if you would have never started playing music.
I'd probably be really sad.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm still a sports dork, or John from Gaza called it a sports imbecile. Like I played basketball, played baseball, but I only grew to be 5'8", so what do you do with that?
Yeah.
So I think like every single, like I wouldn't know how to express myself. I mean, at least, with sports, some say that sports is an art, to some degree, I think that, but it's like, well, okay, well, if I'm physically inept to play these sports, okay, well, what do you do then? If music didn't come into my life, I'd probably be a pretty angry, frustrated dude that isn't able to get out a lot of his energy.
Well, let's actually play another one of your songs now. Yeah. Pick another one of your favorites that we can play for the listeners.
Yeah, this one's called Portland. It's a short one. It's off my new EP called Nostalgia.
I was just listening to this last night. I love it.
It's an oldie but goodie, and so yeah, Portland's about being on tour and sleeping on friends' floors.
Excellent. We'll be back with more Matthew. I always like to ask musicians and bands, say somebody was listening and they were interested in starting a band, or starting to play music. What advice would you give them?
Play with your friends, like the people that you've known for a long time. Just try to. It's one of the best ways to get to know somebody too, is because for better or for worse, it's either you bond or you offend somebody, but either way. A lot of things that you go through when you're practicing or writing songs, like the arguments make you be better friends in the end, if you're truly like really good friends. So I'd say play with your friends and people that you love. Cause I mean, I play, at my church, I play in a band at my church, and I'm actually playing with one of the ex-guitar players of Day 2 that I went to high school with. And I consider him one of my best friends, and another really good friend I've had for another 10 years. I'm playing with him now too. And so that experience has been really cool. I mean, I still love playing solo. I still love expressing myself, in that way as well. But as far as like being in a band, it's I being with like-minded people, being with your best friends, I'd say that. Even musically, like it'd be, it's of course it's cool to be, have a goal maybe as far as a a style of music, but the guys I play with, at the church, like we have some commonalities, but for the most part, I mean, like one of the guys listens to dubstep and I can't stand dubstep,
Yeah.
but it's like, well, we're different people, but we love each other, and we're going to play music and we're going to have a good time, and we're going to have arguments, but we're going to be better friends for it. So I think that's really important. Because when it's hitting the fan, who are you going to stick it out with? Someone that you're just hopping in a van with, or someone that you've known for years and done life with, So I think that's pretty.
But couldn't you create, a bad friendship though at the same time?
You could. I think it just depends on how mature you are, though. 10 years ago when I was 18, 19 years old, I was a really selfish dude. Of course, I was doing what I wanted to do, but when you're living with 5 or 6 other people in a cramped van, and you're not getting what you want, well, how are you going to react to that? And so I didn't react well at all. I would get angry, I would get offended at what people would say to me or about me, and
you had to grow up fast.
Oh yeah, like I didn't have thick skin at all.
Yeah.
But now, if I'm doing something that someone's not liking, or even just like in life in general, it's like, hey, you really offended me, or you screwed this bass line up. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, well, what can I do? They're really thinking it through. And so for a while, like with some old bandmates I had, like, yeah, like I didn't even want to speak to any of those guys like for a while, but especially when we had the day 2 reunion show we did, ended up like, whoa, we're older, and we're like,
you grew up.
We grew up. And like one of the guys in the band that, I got along with the least, like, wow, I like you a lot now. And so it really depends on your maturity too, and how you deal with people as well. Even people that you meet out on the road, and like promoters or people that you're staying with, like, it goes a long way, like, to treat other people with respect and seeing where they're coming from. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with just growing up in general, I think.
What other hobbies besides playing music?
Oh gosh, too much.
What else do you like to, what other interests of Matthew's is there?
I have a problem. I have too many.
I'd say that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. You're a well-rounded person.
Well, I like hanging out with my family. I've got a wife and 2 kids now.
How is that? Honestly, right? 10 years ago, you would have never probably thought that.
No, I thought I would have been dead at 30. It's not like I was like a druggie or anything. I just kind of was like a fatalistic kind of guy for a while.
Yeah.
I still kind of, there's a nickname for me and my sister, we're negative Nanes,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not negative, I'm a realist.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's crazy how I met my wife was really insane.
Share that real quick. Share that real quick.
I was kind of going crazy, like as all, creative people are, they kind of go crazy in their heads. So I'm like 24 years old. I'm just trying to figure out what to do with my life. And all of a sudden this girl came in my church, and she has this little 1-year-old toddler with her. I'm like, whoa, she's cute, but holy crap, she has a kid. Yeah. I can't do that. And so some things you can't ignore. And so I started to talk to her, and we started to really like each other. And so, she has her daughter, one thing led to another, and things got serious. And it's like, you know what? Like, if we're going to get serious, like, I got to get serious about your daughter too. And so,
did you like the Get Up Kids mix CD that you made?
Yeah. No, it's kind of funny because if you know me and my wife, it's like we really don't have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Like we have our spiritual stuff in common, and values and humor. Like we have the same humor.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. And when I first started talking to her, it's like, well, what kind of music do you like? What are you listening to right now? She's like, oh, I like Jeremy Enoch, Sunny Day Real Estate. So in my mind, I'm like, whoa, cool.
Yeah.
But then when I, get to know her a little bit more, it's like, well, she got a mixed CD from someone else and she really liked that.
Yeah.
But she, I do introduce her to stuff. She likes Gaslight. We saw Gaslight Anthem together. We saw Smashing Pumpkins together. Yeah. And so we kind of sat down. It's like, okay, well, we want to make this happen. It's like, well, I want you to make sure, like, because I'm at that point in my life, I'm not gonna do anything halfway. If I'm gonna be serious about you, I'm gonna be serious about you. Like, some people might think that's crazy. Like, be like, well, if I'm gonna date you, I don't want to waste my time. I want to find out if we're gonna get married.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's just a wise thing. It's a wise thing to do. I think, and so we kind of we dated and got married. I ended up adopting her daughter. And,
nice.
And we have a son of our own. I mean, that sounds bad.
How old's your son, if you don't mind me asking?
He's 5 months.
5 months old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really funny. I would make the joke, like, when he's angry or sad, he looks like me, but when he's happy, he looks like my wife. Thus the
So how long have you been married then?
We've been married 2.5 years.
Nice.
So
nice.
It's crazy.
About as long as I think that's about as long as me and Sue's been married. Nice.
Yeah. You guys been together for
almost 11 years.
Wow, man.
Almost 11 years, but it took us a while to get married.
Yeah. Hey, you got there. You got there.
Anyway, yeah.
So some other stuff I'm doing. I like to write on the side. I like writing. I guess that's what I would have done anyway. I probably would have started writing books or short stories or something if I didn't get into music.
What kind of books do you like to read?
Well, lately it's been really hard to sit down with a book these days. I enjoy reading theology books. I enjoy reading like literary theorists. I'm an English major, so I dorked out on all sorts of stuff. As far as like queer theory, I enjoyed reading a lot of that stuff. I'm reading I have the Lord of the Rings on my bedside. I like to tackle. I'm almost through the third book.
That's a challenge.
It is. I tried reading The Hobbit when I was in 4th grade, and so that kind of discouraged me for a long time. But I'm almost there. I don't know. Like it sounds really like pompous. Be like, I like Shakespeare, but I really, really do like Shakespeare. I like C.S. Lewis a lot. Like his Narnia stuff, his essays later on.
He wrote a lot of like Christian based writing too, didn't he?
Yeah. My favorite was the Screw Tape Letters.
Okay.
That one's awesome, regardless of what you believe in. It's just really, it just really makes you think about like the things that you do or whatever. It comes from the point of view of these devils trying to pretty much ruin a guy's life.
Yeah.
And it's crazy thinking of this C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Narnia series, writing stuff like that. But it's really cool. I really like him a lot. I'm not one for resolutions, but I would really like to read a lot more. Of course, with like kids and stuff, like it's getting far more difficult to do to carve out that time to read. But even being grown up.
I wish I used to read 2 books a week, and now it's like I'm lucky to read a book a month,
Oh, definitely. I do that. I'm really into sports. If you read my Twitter at all, like I should probably stop live tweeting Jazz games.
Nah, there's nothing wrong with that.
But no, I don't know, try to being busy with like working and music and stuff like that, and trying to enjoy life.
Absolutely. What's your favorite thing about living in Salt Lake City?
Oh man, a lot of people say this that have lived here for a long time, but it really is like kind of like the best kept secret in America, I think.
Everybody says that. And I think it's true. No, it's very true. I think a lot of people have this weird misconception of Salt Lake City.
Oh, being on tour too.
Yeah.
I think Ryan said this like on his podcast, but you'd go through some town, especially like in the South. You're like, are you a Mormon? When you have tattoos, like, well, for us, we know like, Mormons don't necessarily have tattoos, for the most part. Yeah. But you tend to forget, people have this misconception like, or how many wives do you have? It's like,
well, that's even what I'm trying to do with doing this podcast, is show that there is a side of Salt Lake that a lot of people aren't even familiar with.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, a lot of people outside of Salt Lake listen to this podcast. So,
it's
really cool to see that, to see the people being like, wow, okay. And people moving here. Like I got a letter from a lady saying, now I'm excited to move to Utah. There's actually stuff going on there.
Yeah. I can't say whether or not, things have always been happening here. Well, I guess you can, like I've got an older friend who always talks about the Speedway. You know, how he used to see Nirvana and he saw Fugazi play there. You know, I think with any culture that, you know, has a very, you know, conservative majority, you're going to get a pushback of some sort. You know, it just depends, like, well, is that going to be, are you going to do something positive with that? Or are you just going to, you know, be angry about it? Like, well, you can be angry, but do something positive with it at the same time, like be in a band, you know? And like, when it's funny you say people are moving here, you know, that Under Oath connection that I made on Warped Tour, like one of the drummer, he had his own side project band, and a lot of those dudes were from Florida, and he moved here actually because he met his wife here in Salt Lake, and she's from Salt Lake.
Really?
Yeah, and so he moved here for a while and brought his band here, and now 2 of those guys now currently live here. They stayed from Florida, from all places. Yeah. So and then one of those guys.
Are they still here?
Yeah, they're still here.
Maybe I should get them on the podcast.
Yeah. They're great. They're great dudes. And one of them met his wife. Well, I think she was visiting here, but she's from California. I'd actually met her on another Warped Tour in a total separate thing. It's like,
wow.
You know, when people say like small lake city, but like Salt Lake City has its, you know, tentacles out everywhere. You know, it seems like if you're somewhat involved at all with music of some sort, you know,
or just any of the you know, little subcultures of the area. It's
cool. Like I always enjoy telling people that, you know, people, you know, talk crap on Utah, then they don't live here.
Yeah,
it's like whatever. I know so many people who love it here and didn't think that they would love it here. When, you know, they end up staying and they don't see themselves leaving. You know?
It's a cool city. Yeah, it really is.
Rad.
I mean, it's. I mean, obviously, you're older. I'm older. I'm here by choice. You know, I could pick up and move any day I want to move. You know?
Yeah.
And I say that over and over. And I know it sounds like a broken record sometimes, but it's true. It really is. I mean, it's like at the end of the day, if I wanted to move, I can move. Yeah, but I love it here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have my list. Like, if I didn't love it here so much, where would I go?
Yeah,
but it's like, well, I love it here. Yeah. I love it. I love it here a lot. You know, I like not being of the majority. You know, I like being in a place where I can go see shows and be part of a subculture and exist in that still and be a part of it. And I think it's just a testament to the people who do live here, you know, and try to make something of it. And so
well, excellent. I'm really glad you dropped me an email, Matt. I'm glad to bring you on. Anything else? You know, and I was serious about it. I think it'd be fun to get me and you and Sue and Ryan. We all sit down and just have a big giant episode of all of us reminiscing about old days.
Yeah. It's like, remember that show? Yeah, there'll be a lot of that. even Matt from Gary the Unicorn too. Like,
and you know what's funny about that is when I met with him, I'm like, wait a minute, I remember you know, and we just started going off and about everything that he did in Utah County, and it is Small Lake City. Anything you want to add? How can people find? You know, I'm going to put all the links on the I Am Salt Lake website, but go ahead and feel free to list. Or how can people find your music?
Yeah, you can find it by going to Matthew Quen Nanes. If you have a hard time spelling that, just refer to the notes.
yeah, I'll put that on the episode show notes.
That's on at bandcamp.com. I've got a Facebook, so facebook.com/Matthew Quen Nanes.
And people can add you as a friend if they want to add you as a friend.
Yeah.
You're pretty cool with that?
Oh, yeah, I'm too cool. Too cool for my own good.
Well, you know, some people don't want that. They're like, I don't want to be friends with somebody I don't know.
Well, even if you don't want to be, you can find the links on there and bam, you got it.
Yeah.
And then if you're
on Twitter.
Yeah, so I'm Matthew Q Nanes on there because my full name's
follow about Utah jazz stuff.
All sorts of stuff. Pretty much everything I talked about today: music, God, sports, weird stories. Yeah, so
awesome.
It's good time. Good time.
Anything else you want to add? I want to play one more song. If there's anything else you want to add, or you got any shows coming up? Any shows that you got coming up?
I got my EP release show. The EP is called Nostalgia. A bunch of old songs I wrote that I still love. I wrote while I was back in Davis County. Doing a release show at the Shred Shed on March 2nd with Still C, the Hung Ups, and a touring band called Business Venture. It's going to be a really, really good show. And also, I'm also a part of an anthology of sorts. I'm writing a story for it right now. It's about dystopias and utopias. I forget the title. I'm still kind of in my head about my story right now. Me and a bunch of friends were writing stories for that. We're releasing that at an art show at the Rock Church on March 22nd, I believe.
Excellent.
So that's going to be kind of a hefty book. People who want to get some ideas out on paper. So
March 2nd and then March 22nd.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm always playing shows too. So get a hold of me on any of those avenues. And
if they follow you on Twitter or any of that, I'm sure you'll talk about it on there too. So
Definitely.
they can be reminded.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'll definitely have to come check out those two events.
Yeah.
In March. So any other shows or anything that you could think of off the top of your head while you want to plug?
Not at the top of my head. I know I've got one with my buddy Lauren Madsen at the end of March at Kilby as well, but I'm foggy on that date, so I'm kind of doing him a disservice not remembering.
No, and you're fine. And what I'll do is once you get that date, I'd be more than happy to. Even if you're not following you on Twitter, I can post it on the I Am Salt Lake Twitter or something like that.
That'd be great. He's writing some great songs, so it's definitely worth it to come out.
Excellent. Well, what song should we close out the show with here tonight? Another one of your I guess they're all probably your favorites.
They're all like children. No, I've got a cover of a Hot Water Music song called Rooftops that I have
Hot
on
Water Music.
Yeah,
I love Hot Water Music.
Can I share a story?
Let's do it.
Okay, so one of my first shows I had as being by myself, I opened for Chuck Reagan. He was a singer of Hot Water Music.
Where did you play that at?
Urban. It was an Urban Lounge.
What?
Yeah.
I must have been. Where was I? Wow. Anyway, sorry. Go on with your story.
Along with John K. Sampson, he's another big inspiration of mine, and so I opened the show and I'm playing the set. Things are going really well. The crowd's digging it. And someone bought me a shot of whiskey and I took it. And, in my kind of joy of, having a good show, I'm like, well, I could play a Hot Water Music song. The crowd started yelling at me to play it. And I was like, crap, what'd I get myself into?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, Chuck Reagan's here. I don't want to do that. And all of a sudden Chuck came up. And me another shot. I'm not a big drinker at all, and but I was like, well, if Chuck's gonna give you a shot, you better take it. And so he was like, do it, man, do it.
Yeah.
And it was just a really, really good time. It's probably you were asking like a favorite show.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was probably like one of the Cloud9 shows I've had. Like I've had only like a few, but that was a really, really good time and a really good show. So so this is a song I played for Chuck Reagan's Rooftops on my EP, Matthew Quen Nanes EP.
Excellent. You know what? I love you for ending with this song. This is great. Seriously, you've been a really fun guest, Matt. Thank you, and I'd love to bring you back on down the road and catch up with you. So here we go.
1, 2.
Skies to remind me, watch the clocks go round. Walk myself through some days, and put me where I am. In another town, in another place, all things might have been in place, but for now I'm finding myself up and standing on my doorstep, dreaming. Hey world, are you listening? Listen to me. I'm here and I'm hurting to begin again. It's another time, it's another place. We all make it more on days, but for now I'm finding myself up here standing on my rooftop screaming. Hey world, are you listening? Listen to me. I'm here and I'm ready to begin again. Hey world, I'm ready to listen. myself through.